The man who built Live Aid did not want Queen on the bill. Bob Geldof's own words years later, "Queen have peaked, I don't think they should play." The band most people now name as the greatest live act of all time was, in the spring of 1985, a group the organiser considered finished. And Queen were not exactly fighting to get on. They had just come off a punishing world tour, they were tired of each other, and Freddie had gone off to make a solo record. The greatest performance in rock history very nearly did not happen, because nobody involved particularly wanted it to.
What Geldof was assembling in the spring of 1985 had no precedent. 2 stadiums, London and Philadelphia, running simultaneously across 2 continents, broadcast live to an audience estimated at more than 1.5 billion people. Almost every major act in Western music was being asked to donate 20 minutes. 20 minutes is nothing. It is 3 songs, maybe 4. There is no time to build, no time to recover from a mistake, no second half in which to fix a bad first half. Most of the acts booked treated it as a favour to be squeezed into a busy summer. Almost nobody treated it as a problem to be solved.
Queen in 1985 were not in a good place. They had spent most of the previous year on the Works tour, which had been long and heavy and had left everyone frayed. The band had been together 13 years and were, by several accounts, thoroughly sick of being in a room with each other. Freddie had stepped away to record his first solo album, which was a statement in itself. The British press had been sharpening its tone about them for a while, and there was the Sun City problem. They had played South Africa the previous year during the cultural boycott and taken serious criticism for it.
So when Geldof was building his bill, Queen were not near the top of it. He has said it plainly since. He thought they had peaked. In his reading, Queen belonged to the 1970s, and the show he was building was about right now. This is worth sitting with for a moment. The single most celebrated 20 minutes in the history of live rock music happened at an event whose organiser had privately written that band off. He did not need them. He was not chasing them. If anything, he was mildly indifferent to whether they showed up at all.
The approach came sideways. Geldof knew Roger Taylor socially, so he went to Roger first. Roger pointed him at Jim Beach, Queen's manager. Both of them told him more or less the same thing. This is not really the sort of thing Queen do. A charity bill, 20 minutes, no sound check worth the name, sharing a stage with 30 other acts. It was the opposite of how Queen had built their reputation, which was on control, spectacle, and their own production. But Beach left a small door open. He said he could try talking to Freddie. And then, for a couple of days, nothing happened at all.
Then Geldof's phone rang. The voice on the other end said, "Bobsy, so what's all this about, darling?" The conversation did not go especially well at first, and Geldof has admitted he was not particularly invested in the outcome. Then something occurred to him, and he said it more or less as it came. "Listen, Fred, honestly, if there was ever a stage built for you, this is it." There was a pause on the line. Then Freddie said, "I think I know where you're coming from."
What had actually landed was not charity, and it was not flattery. Harvey Goldsmith, who promoted the London show, put it in plain terms afterwards. What swung Freddie was the thought that he could play to 1 billion people in one go, live. Nobody had ever done that. Not once in the history of performance. Every record Freddie had ever broken had been a room, a bigger room, a fuller room, a room further from home. This was not a bigger room. This was every room at once, on the same afternoon. He had spent 15 years building an instrument for exactly that, and had never been handed anything large enough to use it on.
Having finally got them, Geldof gave Freddie one instruction: do not get clever.
just play the hits. It is a slightly comic thing to say to Freddie Mercury, and it was also exactly the right note. Because the trap of a 20-minute slot is vanity. Every act on that bill had a new record to push, and most of them pushed it. They played the current single, the one the audience did not know, and spent their few minutes teaching a stadium a song instead of using one it already loved. Queen were told not to make that mistake. What they did with the instruction went considerably further than following it. 3 days. Queen booked the Shaw Theatre in London and rehearsed for 3 full days for a 20-minute slot. Almost no other act on the bill did anything comparable. Most turned up, plugged in, and played. And Queen did not rehearse a set. They built one. They took 6 songs, Bohemian Rhapsody, Radio Gaga, Hammer to Fall, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, We Will Rock You, and We Are the Champions, and cut each one down to only the part that worked hardest. No verses that existed to get you to the chorus, no introductions, just the peaks, welded together. Understand what that decision does to an audience. A normal set has troughs by design because a performer needs somewhere to breathe and a crowd needs somewhere to come down. Queen removed the troughs. For 20 minutes, every 30 seconds delivered something a stadium already knew and already loved, and then handed over to the next one before anyone could settle. It is exhausting to play and almost impossible to resist. They won Live Aid 3 days early in a rehearsal room with a pair of scissors. By the time they walked on stage, the outcome was largely decided.
The rest is the part everyone has seen. 20 minutes on the 13th of July, 1985, in front of Wembley and most of the planet. In 2005, a poll of more than 60 people working in the music industry was asked to name the greatest live performance in rock history. They chose those 20 minutes. Queen's back catalogue moved immediately afterwards, and the band that had reportedly been close to breaking up went on to work together for another 6 years, until Freddie could no longer do it. A performance nobody in charge had wanted became the thing the whole day is remembered for.
Which brings us back to Geldof's verdict. He was not being unkind, and by the ordinary measures he was not even wrong. Queen's recent records had underperformed, the press had turned, and the band were tired and half apart. On paper, peaked was a reasonable reading. What the paper could not show was that they were the only act on the bill who looked at 20 minutes and treated it as an engineering problem. Everyone else was given the same slot, the same stage, and the same billion people. Queen were simply the only ones who spent 3 days working out what to do with it.